Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. We'll be talking about astrology and the murder of Selena Quintanilla. And that murder, of course, is Yolonda Saldivar. We'll be talking about her chart and how it may have related to some murderous tendencies, and perhaps more specifically in regards to the murder of Selena. And so the first thing I want to talk about, well, the chart, I don't have Yolanda's birth time, so I had to improvise and do a solar sunrise chart in which I put the sun at the position of the ascendant. Now, in this chart, though, Aries falls on the 8th house cusp at 24 degrees. And when you have Aries on the 8th house cusp, if it's somebody that's going to murder, it could be one that may be done with a lot of acrimony, a lot of anger, a lot of violence. Aries can be about gunfire. Mars does rule it. And Selena, oddly enough, she had her sun at around 25 degrees of Aries. So this could be an indicator that the focus would be on the murder of an area of Selena at, because you're talking about, I mean, very close proximity, the degree on the 8th house cusp of death slash murder. And then you have Selena's sun at 25 degrees. The sun is about focus. And sadly, this could have been one where it turned, the way this manifested is this was turned out to be a focus on the murdering Selena. Very interesting how that works out with the sign degree on the 8th house cusp, very close proximity to Selena's sun in Aries. Now, in Yolanda's chart, in the solar sunrise chart, she has the ruler of the 8th house in the 10th house. Now, this could be an indicator where if a murder were to occur, it might gain this person some notoriety, in this case infamy and recognition, notoriety for something very negative in this case, and also the murder of somebody that was famous. Sure enough, Selena obviously was somebody that had very great fame and had a lot of acclaim and recognition, being a renowned singer at this time. Now, another thing in Yolanda's chart is that she has, in this solar sunrise chart, she has Pluto conjunct the moon and the north node in Virgo. And when you look at when you look at this could be a case. The way this could have manifested is that Pluto being about death and murder. This case was tied into her Yolanda's recognition, public recognition. The moon can be about recognition and also connected with the future destiny, which is the North Node. And being in Virgo, this may have been done with a lot of meticulous attention to detail, but more maybe with frugality and parsimony. This is in the 12th house, led to her incarceration. Now, Yolanda also in this chart has Neptune in the 2nd house. Now, this could be an indicator of duplicity and being deceptive in monetary matters. Yolanda was hoarding this money that was supposed to go towards sending gifts out to these fans or what have you, and some of it was from some boutique she was hoarding, I believe. And it was something that, and she was taking this money and wasn't really and when she wasn't supposed to. So that's an indicator. Neptune in the 2nd house. This could be tied in with her being very duplicitous in something of a monetary nature, and being in Scorpio, done very surreptitiously. Now, at the time of this murder of Yolanda, the murder of Selena, Yolanda had transit North Node in Scorpio, very close proximity to her Neptune. So when you have transits involving the North Node in the chart, it can be about one's future and destiny, but it could also be about issues one may have to confront. And this was a time where she was going to have to own up to her being very deceptive in something of a monetary nature and being very surreptitious and sneaky about this as well. Of course, that's a Scorpio energy blending in. Now in Yolanda's chart as well, in this solar sunrise chart, she has Uranus in Leo conjunct the 12th house cusp of incarceration. Now, one way this could have manifested, this could have been about very unpredictable, unusual notoriety and imprisonment as well at this time. She might have had an unusual mental illness. I don't know that for a fact, but it wouldn't surprise me if she did. And it also, this could be about a bizarre obsession with celebrities. The 12th house could be about our phobias and obsessions. Uranus, of course, could be about what's unusual and bizarre. And Leo, I see as the sign more, which more synonymous with celebrities and famous people. And really, this is and that is one way I think this could have manifested in this particular case. Now, also, Yolanda, in the solar sunrise chart, she has the 12th house cusp not far from 29 degrees Leo, and the 6th house cusp not far from 29 degrees Aquarius, near the critical 29th degree. Now, when you look at 29 degrees in astrology, I see this as being like the full culmination of the signs. Now, given that one, you're talking about the 12th house in Leo, this could be very amplified arrogance tied into one's self-undoing, and also very intensified notoriety recognition that would lead, though, to one's incarceration. Now, the thing about this, too, and also having the 6th house cusp close to 29 degrees Aquarius. This could have manifested in something of a very powerful, shocking nature that would be tied into the ending of one's employment in something of a very unusual manner. And the 29 degrees can signify endings. So that's how this could have maybe worked in this particular case as far as Yolanda's chart goes. Now, the thing at this time of Selena's murder, well, first I want to talk about is that Yolanda Saldivar, she has two T-square configurations in her chart. One of them is a mutable T-square configuration, which consists of the Mars in Gemini opposing Jupiter in Sagittarius, both being squared by the worrisome, nervous Sun in Virgo. Now, when you have a T-square configuration in the chart, again, it consists of an opposition between two astrological energies, and then you have it being squared by the third point. The focal point could be about what is over-accentuated and overemphasized. Now, the way this could have manifested in Yolanda's case, the Mars in Gemini could be that actions connected with thievery at a very powerful level, being at 29 degrees, making an opposition to really about having a philosophy connected with veracity and the truth. Perhaps the Mars in Gemini, and the thing about this is having that Sun in Virgo being at that focal point, that overemphasis point in the chart could have indicated a strong focus on nervousness and worrisome energy, being overly pensive and thoughtful regarding this. And she, and the thing, and maybe a lot of incessant and analyzing in as far as that went at this time. It might have resorted to a focus on frugality in Yolanda's, as far as this went in this particular case, a very strong focus on it, and by doing so, she wound up, taking these funds that she wasn't supposed to. Now, another T-square configuration in Yolanda's chart, she has a cardinal T-square configuration, and this can be subjective because I'm including the Black Moon Lilith in this case. Some people may not look at the Black Moon Lilith in the case where you would consider a proponent of T-square configuration, but I'm doing so in this case. I think it still can have certain significance. You look at this now in Yolanda's chart. She has the Black Moon based on the solar sunrise chart. The Black Moon Lilith in Cancer in the 10th house, making an opposition to Saturn in Capricorn in the 4th house. and both being squared by Mercury, Venus, Libra conjunction. Hold on a moment, people. And the thing about this is, again, both being squared by that Mercury, Venus, Libra conjunction. Now, I think a lot of this was resulting in, I mean, the Black Moon, first looking at the Black Moon Lilith in Cancer being in that 10th house, this could have been about maybe trying to really having that, maybe that difficulty, or Black Moon Lilith in astrology could be about what one puts us in a strong state of fright and trepidation. And having in the Black Moon Lilith in Cancer in the 10th house could be about being very fearful and apprehensive about maybe going outside the box in terms of security and safety, and really the comfort zone in one's career related matters. And perhaps this played a role into her actually maybe stealing in this particular case. That energy is opposing the Saturn in Capricorn in the 4th house. This could be about the responsibilities one has to one's home life at this time and their emotional security. This, for these go as far as this went, she might have had trouble at this time, maybe finding being responsible to what she had in her home. Maybe in her mind she wasn't really getting enough in terms of the career she was in. And you have the focal point again being that Venus Mercury in Libra conjunction. Mercury can be about thievery, and you have it making the conjunction to Venus. That is about money. She might have justified this by doing what she thought was fair in terms of taking this money. That's how she rationalized this, even though we know that certainly wasn't fair, and I don't certainly know, and very few people are going to condone stealing, and there's really no reason to do that. But that is one way I think that this might have manifested and panned out. This might have also been about very strong over-ambivalence, I call this, in terms of what she was going to do as far as a monetary situation, but sadly she did resort to stealing. And a thing that I wanted to get to as well, at the time of this murder, Yolanda had 2 transits at this time that were very critical. They were very significant. In both those transits were making oppositions to the focal points in both T-square configurations. She had transit Mercury in Pisces, making an opposition to the Sun in Virgo, which is the focal point of the mutable T-square configuration. And she also had the transit Sun in Aries, making in opposition to the Libra, to one of the Libra energies. I believe it was the Mercury in Libra in that T-square, in the cardinal T-square configuration in her chart. And of course you have the Sun in Libra being, in volatile, the Sun in Aries being in volatile, acrimonious Aries, and of course Aries being ruled by Mars can be connected with gunfire. And then you have the Mercury in Pisces being about very chaotic, convoluted thinking. Mercury, of course, is in its detriment and fall in Pisces, and it activated that mutable T-square configuration in Yolanda's chart, spurring on, I believe, a lot of nervousness, a lot of anxiety and apprehension and worry at this time. Now, another thing in Yolanda's chart, she has Scorpio on the 3rd house cusp in the solar sunrise chart, which could give very fixated, obsessive, and vengeful thinking. Could be very jealous thinking, even maniacal, thinking connected with maniacal jealousy at this time. I really wonder if she might have been not just obsessed and fixated on Yolanda, but was she also jealous of her strongly as well? It would not surprise me. In Yolanda's solar sunrise chart, she has the ruler of the third house in the 12th house, which could indicate certain limitations in rational thinking. That's how it could manifest in some cases, and deceptive communications. It could have been the dissipation and dissolving of the rational mind. And Yolanda also in this chart has Jupiter in the third house. Now, Jupiter, as I've stated in previous videos, can be strongly benign and benevolent, but it could also have a tendency to enlarge and expand. This case, perhaps an enlarge and expand, rather foolhardy, reckless, and self-righteous thinking. She might have been very over-optimistic in her way of thinking and thought she was really going to get away with persistently taking this money away from Yolanda and her fans, in terms of the gifts that were supposed to go out to the fans as a result of that money coming in from them. And another thing too, I noticed in Yolanda's chart is that her Neptune, that second house Neptune in the solar sunrise chart, Neptune in Scorpio, makes no major adverse aspects. So perhaps this was something where there was nothing adversarial in the chart connected with Neptune in terms of an astrological energy. There was no opposition. There were no oppositions, no squares to it. So she was able, this might have played a role in her being able to keep this up for a certain amount of time, being deceptive in these monetary matters. And again, going back to that transit north node, being very close to her natal Neptune, that gave her something where she was going to have to confront some issues regarding something of deceptive monetary practices at this time, and one that was done with that Scorpio surreptitious energy, because of course this was the time when, I mean, Yolanda could have very well been facing incarceration for stealing this money, and I think she just acted, obviously very irrationally, because she said, well, probably what happened was, even though she claims that she inadvertently shot Selena, I think most people believe she did this maliciously and purposely, as I believe she was chasing Selena outside of the hotel at this time and trying to, and perhaps was going to shoot her again. So anyway, people, that will conclude this YouTube astrological segment for my take on astrology and the murderer of Selena Quintanilla. And one last thing I wanted to say, Selena, even though she may be gone, certainly not forgotten, a very renowned, beautiful singer, I believe likely very beautiful person as well. And it's terrible that her life was taken at a relatively young age, at like 23 years old. And she had so much to live for, and for somebody just to take this away from her is obviously terrible, and it's obviously a very appalling. So, and maybe she may be gone from us, but let her legacy live on. So, people, until next time, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.